All right, Joe, we'll say good morning. Let us begin. So we are going to finish up. Actually going to get, I think, a few minute head start on the daf. Just to, Emir Hashem, long daf today. Beautiful daf. I think I hit everything, right? Good, thank you. All right, so we're finishing off Os Nun Gimel. And we're picking up on page Kuf Chav Ches. Kuf Chav Ches. So remember again, the Rebbe was highlighting this incredible idea, this really beautiful idea, that when a person speaks, or that which a person says, is often an expression of their inner spirituality. And on a specific level, when a person commonly says something, that can often refer to a particular aspect of their ruchnius, to a particular aspect of their personalistic kedusha. Because what differentiates us from the animal world or from the rest of creation is the ability to speak, but it's not just the ability to dialogue, it's the ability to articulate an inner or innate holiness in a way that the rest of nature cannot. That's the gadlus of man. So that when a person constantly says something, like the Gemara said, Margala Bapume, or Ragil Inish Tahabela Meimar, something that people commonly said, that was often understood to be, according to the Rebbe, an expression of a person's inner ruchnius. And what we left off with yesterday is not only an expression of my ruchnius, but an expression of my core identity. And not only an expression of my core identity, but sometimes in and of itself an expression of my core life mission. What is it that I have to accomplish? What is it that I have to do? Who is it that I am in my essence? So we'll just end off this os with two interesting examples. He says, so I'm on page Kuf Chav Ches in the Be'urei Chasidus, left-hand column. Ukahai Gavna, it's still in the middle of the column. Ukahai Gavna, and in this manner, Kein Zev Chinu Chazal, as miuchadus ha'adam ayidei diburo, that you could see the singularity of man through his speech. Now again, I will say one more time, not just simply the singularity of man in his place in nature through his speech, but the singularity of man in terms of seeing his essence, who he is, what he is through his speech. He gives an example. This is great. Quotes the Gemara Maseches Pesachim. We saw this not so long ago. The Gemara says, Bereish Pesachim, Al Hahuda Hava Amar Adam Echad Shahayra Gilamar. There was a particular guy who always used to say, Donu Dini. Whenever he would have an issue, he would always say, okay, let's go to Beis Din. And I will say, now, the Gemara is not trying to paint an issue of a cantankerous individual. Everybody has disputes, and most times people try, hopefully, to settle their disputes amongst themselves. This particular guy never felt a real need to settle his dispute amongst him and his disputant, but rather, again, his kind of reflexive reaction was, let's just go to Beis Din, we'll settle it in Beis Din, we'll have others go ahead and help us. So the Gemara says, anytime he had a business dispute with someone, Haya Omer Tamid Baladin, he would say to someone, why don't you come to din with me? Come to din. Ve'eno nishma ledavar adam ela api dayan. And in general, this individual would never be satisfied unless, of course, a particular ruling was delivered by a dayan. So what happens? What does the Gemara say? Amru Chazal, shmamina midan ka'asi. The Gemara says, what do you see from here? That this individual came from Shevet Dan. He came from Shevet Dan, right? Dan Yadin Amo. So Dayanim, like the pasuk says, right? Dayanim come from Shevet Dan. So the Gemara understands that this individual's need for constant adjudication, right? And his need ultimately to resolve everything through the mechanism of the Beis Din, the Gemara understood meant that he was from Shevet Dan. If you take a look in footnote Kuf Tes Vav on the bottom, so footnote Kuf Tes Vav, so he writes, Hahuda Amar Don Dini, Armishmami not midan kaasi, Dichsev, Don Yadin Amo, Ke'echad Shiftei Yisrael. So the Gemara tells another story, Hahu da Hava Ka'azal Va'amar, Akif Yama Asisni Biyarasa, Bad Kuvash Kechu Dimizvulun Kasi. The Gemara tells another story that there was another guy whose lifelong dream was always to travel the seas. Right? They just want to travel the seas. So they looked into his yichus, and it turned out, sure enough, who was he from? He was from Shevet Binyamin. He was from Shevet Binyamin. Both say, Chavran Zoom, you hear me all right? Okay, I see someone posted the sound is on. Good. All right. So they found out that he is from the Shevet Zvulun. Remember again, Zvulun, as the pasuk says, Zvulun lechov yamim yishkan. So we'll say this os ends off just with this last piece where the Rebbe explains that these individuals, through what they were constantly saying, ultimately gave you a little bit of a hint into who they were. So if we kind of bring this all together, what comes out from this Seif, which I think is really incredible, is, remember how the journey began. Let's sum this up in a minute. So the Rebbe said, was intrigued by the fact that often in the Gemara, you'll find Margala de Pumei, right? The Chazal will often quote just a common saying of an individual. And HaTzaddik was intrigued by that. Why does a common saying, or why does something that people commonly say, why does that find its way into the Gemara? To which ultimately, again, to which HaTzaddik said, step one is to understand that the nefesh, the soul of a Jew, ultimately, again, his wording was, Yesh lo achiza b'divrei Torah miyuchades. The neshama of a Jew has a particular connection to Torah. Torah is embedded inside the neshama of the Jew. And that's, according to HaTzaddik, the chiddush of this is, even if a person isn't learning Torah, right? Even if a person hasn't been learning Torah, at the end of the day, Torah is embedded in my neshama. How does that innate Torah express itself? So HaTzaddik posits, it often expresses itself through our dibur, through the way we speak. That when we talk, it gives us a little bit of a window into our innate spirituality. So HaTzaddik says, and that manifests itself in a couple of different ways. Either it manifests itself in a window into my core identity. That was the last two examples of the guy from Dan, the guy from Zvulun. Or it can manifest itself in an articulation of my core challenge, my core mission, my core beliefs. But what HaTzaddik ultimately highlights is that one is able to go ahead and get a window into their core ruchnius, into their innate ruchnius, by how they talk. And I will say it's an incredible lesson for us because, we all have things that we constantly say, or we all have things that we constantly talk about. So it's interesting to kind of take a step back and look at what are the things we constantly talk about. What are the things we're constantly verbally focused on? And if we look at those things, it's an interesting way to kind of see what is our innate ruchnius, what is our innate spiritual identity. I think sometimes it paints a good picture, sometimes it paints a challenging picture, because sometimes we're not always focused on the right things. But what HaTzaddik tells me is that even if my dibur kind of highlights a little bit of a broken internal spiritual dynamic, the fact that the neshama is constantly rooted in Torah indicates to me that I have the ability to spiritually rehabilitate. So we'll stop over here for today. I think, Meretz Hashem, what we're going to do come Monday, because Monday, Meretz Hashem, is Beis Nisan. What we're going to start doing from the next 2 weeks leading up to Pesach is, Meretz Hashem, probably a little bit of Inyonei Pesach. We'll use this 10-minute Seder before the daf to Meretz Hashem focus on a little bit of Inyonei Haggadah, a little bit of Inyonei Nisan. I haven't chosen the Sefer yet that we're going to do it from. I'll provide you with copies. You don't have to buy anything. Provide you with copies, or maybe we'll skip around a little bit, but that's going to be out of all this. So that's good. So we ended off over here in Meretz Hashem at Os Nun Dalid, and in Meretz Hashem we'll pick up with Tzidkas HaTzaddik after Pesach. In Meretz Hashem, Shatov Mitzlachas. Shech Bosai.